Welcome back. This is another exciting episode of Mr. Takeda Teaches Algebra. I'm your host, Mr. Takeda, and I'm going to teach you some algebra right now. This is lesson 5.3 on solving systems of equations by elimination. The book calls this the elimination method. I will sometimes refer to this as the addition method because we'll actually be adding here. You'll see in this demonstration on the next, as we do these problems, why I call it the addition method. The last book, or an old book we used to use a long time ago here, called it the addition method. So I'm used to that. And when we do the substitution method, what are we really doing? We're eliminating, we're writing that third equation where we've eliminated one of the variables. So that's what we're going to do here as well. We're going to eliminate one of the variables so we can solve for a single variable. Remember, we can only solve for a single variable. So let's take a look at first the how and the what. Here I've got two equations. They're both true. 5 plus 2 equals 7. 3 plus 1 equals 4. I can literally add these together and get a true equation. 5 plus 3 is 8. Plus 2 plus 1 is 3. And 7 plus 4 is 11. And then if I simplify this side, I'll have 11 equals 11. That's what we're going to be doing with equations with variables in it. Okay? I can add equations together because since this side is equal to this side and this side is equal to this side, I'm adding the same thing to both sides. I'm adding a 7 to this side and a 7 to this side of the second equation. And as long as I add the same thing to both sides, remember our addition properties of equality, I should be okay. So let's try this on this system here. What we want to do in order to use this method is we have to have a pair of opposite terms. And here I'm going to show you the opposite terms here. I've got 2y and negative 2y. They're opposite because if I add them together, I'm going to get a 0. Remember our definition of opposite? If I add them together, I'm going to get a 0. So this one's ready to go for elimination, for addition method. So let's go ahead and add together the two equations here. 3x plus 3x equals 6x. 2y and negative 2y equals 0y. Now I'm going to write the 0y here, but eventually we're just going to kind of eliminate, we're going to not include that variable at all. But right now let's write 0y, and then 4 times negative 4 is, 4 plus negative 4 is 0. Okay. So my opposite terms gave me this 0y here, but 0 times y is just 0, and 0 plus 6x is just 6x. So 6x equals 0, so x equals 0. Okay, so if x equals 0, I can plug into one of these original equations here. It doesn't matter, I'll do the first one. 3 times 0, that's 3 times x, plus 2y equals 4. So 3 times 0 is 0. And 0 plus 2y is just 2y. So 2y equals 4. So y equals 2. Okay, so my ordered pair here is going to be 0, 2. That's my solution to this system of equations. Now, this was a very easy example because they gave us opposite pairs like this. They gave us opposite variable terms. But what happens if we don't have opposite variable terms? Like in this example here. Negative 10x plus 3y equals 1. Negative 5x minus 6y equals 23. Well, what we can do, we can multiply 1, or sometimes, now we'll do this other one in class, more difficult ones. In this case, I only need to multiply one of these equations by a number to come up with a pair of opposite terms. Let me give myself some room here. Let me do this so I can work a little bit easier here. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I have negative 10x and negative 5x. I've got a positive 3y and a negative 6y. I've got a 1 and a 23. So what I can do, now there's a couple different options I could do here. Let's talk about this first one though. I'm going to multiply everything on this equation here. Let me give myself some more room here. I'm going to multiply everything here by 2. Both sides. Why 2? Well, I'll show you. If I multiply everything by 2, 2 times negative 10x would be negative 20x. 2 times 3y, positive 6y. See, there's my pair of opposite terms. And then 1 times 2 over on this side is just 2. Okay? Now, in the course, when we go through this in class, when we do more difficult problems, we might have to multiply both equations in order to get a pair of opposite terms. You might have to multiply one equation by a positive number and the other equation by a negative number. We'll practice those in class. For these basic equations here, for this one, we only have to multiply one of the equations, in this case by the 2. So I have my pair of opposite terms here. So let's go ahead and add up here. Negative 20x and negative 5x is negative 25x. These will cancel, so I'll just leave that blank for now. And then 2 plus 23 is 25. So dividing both sides by negative 25 here, x equals negative 1. Okay, so now I can take this and substitute it into either of these equations here. It doesn't matter which one. Looking at these numbers, these are a little, this big 23 kind of looks like it might be a pain. So I'm going to use the first equation up here, the negative 10x plus 3y equals 1. So negative 10 times negative 1 plus 3y equals 1. So negative 10 times negative 1 is a positive 10 equals 1. Subtracting 10 from both sides, 3y equals negative 9. Dividing both sides by 3, y equals negative 3. So my ordered pair here is negative 1, negative 3. Okay? So the problems will get more difficult than this, but again, this is an example of having to multiply one of the equations by a number in order to come up with our set of opposite terms. That's a term, that's a phrase I'll be using a lot, opposite terms. Opposite means if I add them together, I get a 0. So we're trying to get opposite terms here, okay? So here's a little recap. Get this in your notes. So you might want to pause the video here. But then again, this first step is the if necessary. If you don't have the opposite terms, opposite coefficients in your terms, like terms with opposite coefficients, make sure that you check that first. You'll have to do that, and then add or subtract, and then solve the resulting equations, and then go from there. Okay, so get this in your notes. Pause if you need to. And that's it. Today it's Caterpie, and I choose you. And I hope you learned something today, and I'll see you in class. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.